Welcome back, tribe. It seems we have a race issue in the United States of America, and we have to talk about it. If you haven't been paying attention online because it's gotten buried, mainstream media will not touch this story. I'll give you a quick history recap of what just transpired, or at least what information was released.
It's 9:46 p.m. You'll notice right away, this looks like any other ride aboard the light rail. People are doing what they do these days, keeping to themselves, scrolling on their phones as they ride along. The man accused in the killing, DeCarlos Brown, is in the red hoodies on the right side of your screen. He appears to be maybe a little emotional, perhaps a little agitated, but nothing disruptive. There's nothing that gets anyone's attention. About 30 seconds later, Iryna Zarutska boards. She's wearing a hat and a t-shirt from a pizzeria, and she sits in the row in front of Brown. She has earbuds in and is looking at her phone. She too is just minding her own business. They ride along for around 4 minutes with nothing unusual happening. Then around 9:50 p.m., Brown reaches into a pocket. We've zoomed in on it here. He pulls out a pocket knife. No one notices a thing. Seconds later, he would stand up, and from behind, unprovoked, as we stop the video, he would stab the young woman several times. She had no chance to defend herself.
So that video was released by the police, and apparently it's been kind of getting suppressed. It took a couple of months for this to go public, but it finally has. So Iryna Zarutska, right? This is, for us, if you're looking on X or other websites, yet another senseless killing in the United States. That what makes this one so incendiary is the unimaginable level of violence, seemingly for no reason at all. This is a young woman who escaped the Ukrainian war, or was a refugee of some sort from the Ukrainian war, came to the United States, had a job, got done with her pizzeria shift, simply sat down, as you saw, on the bus, and then moments later, tragically and horrifically loses her life by being stabbed, I believe, in the neck 3 times. Later on in the video, it cuts through the man walking, this deranged thug, walking up and down with blood, most likely dripping from the blade, and his hand, as it probably slipped and cut himself as well. He then escapes through the doors, and he is picked up later by the police. But there's a bunch of problems with this story, and we'll get with the murder first, the murderer himself. His name is DeCarlos Brown Jr., and who would have thought that this man was also arrested a prior 13 times, making this, I believe, the 14th arrest. If not, this may be the 15th arrest. Regardless, he's been arrested over 10 times, 2 of which were already for assaults on other women, okay? And what happened was, back in January, a judge by the name of Teresa Stokes, okay, DEI judge, allowed his release on bail. Now, what makes this potentially explosive is that not only did DeCarlos Brown, public defender, question his mental capacity a month prior, but another judge, Roy Wiggins, ordered a forensic evaluation for which, while waiting, allowed him to stay released, did not rescind and have him report to the court to be arrested, to go to jail. Okay, some information on this judge, because this is the craziest part. Teresa Stokes, this is the last judge to release DeCarlos Brown Jr., has a potential conflict of interest, if you will. This is potentially on the level of cash for, what was it called? Cash for Kids, I believe it was called, with the judge that was imprisoning kids and he was getting cash kickbacks. Well, this judge is the CEO of a company called Pinnacle Recovery Services that is rehabilitating in some way these criminals. The judge released it, and potentially with a government contract to boot. We don't know yet. But the judge releases the prisoner. The prisoner then reports to the Pinnacle Recovery Service, for which the judge is also a member of the board and CEO of, to get rehabilitated. That is a direct conflict of interest, and she could be collecting extra money to just let criminals run free. If you haven't heard of this at all, it's probably because there have been zero media coverage apart from, I believe, let me double check, apart from Fox News, Newsweek, and limited overall reporting, some from Daily Mail. There have been, as of this last check I've done, which was today, Monday, September 8th, there have been no reports on CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, MSNBC, ABC News, NBC News, CBS News, BBC, or The Guardian. This is as of September 8th, with some more limited or local reporting from local news, like NDTV, and of course, like I mentioned, Daily Mail. As you would expect, the conversation has immediately shifted. The judge, Teresa, is also black. Now, the racial component of this has started exploding all over the internet, all over X. It's the dominant discussion because of the heinous amount of crimes and violence seen from blacks against whites, and the double standards therein, where you have zero media coverage as a white victim, but if you are a white perpetrator, your name is practically a household name. But now we have on video an unprovoked attack of a maximum degree of unprovokedness. I mean, you cannot get more unprovoked than simply coming onto the bus, sitting down silently, earbuds in, no eye contact, hat on head, just listening to your music, browsing, and your life is over 20 seconds later. Now, the left, progressives, whoever, leftists, whatever you want to call them, has excused this attack as we have a mental health issue. This guy was mentally unwell. That's the problem. If that's the case, why aren't you covering it on all the major news stations? Why is the entire leftist media machine refusing to cover this at all? Is it because the optics look so terrible for them? Is it because their obsession with race has maybe potentially led to this happening? Is it because their soft on crime policies led directly to this happening? Is it because the woke progressive DAs and the woke progressive judges have allowed this man to be arrested 13 times, multiple assaults, 13 times? He was released. He got to victimize 13 people, and here, the 14th, lost her life. Over what? The leftist narrative that whites are evil, that whites commit violence, that whites systemically hold people down, that being white is somehow bad. You should feel bad for being white. The race play that they constantly indulge their viewers with on their channels, on their propaganda machines, on their news media empires that they have, from cable TV to the newspapers that print this horse shit over and over again. In reality, the statistics bear out that blacks commit crimes against whites at a 41.5, if not more, rate. You are 41 more times likelier to be a victim, black on white, than you are white on black. So a white person victimizing a black person. Do you understand the incredible disparity that we have here? The hyper violence attributed to a small percentage of the population. The irony in all this is while the left plays race blind in a sense and only focus on what whites are doing, and every other BIPOC minority is somehow a victim, the irony of this is that these progressive DAs, these progressive judges are letting these monsters back out into the streets where they predominantly victimize people of their own race. The black community themselves are the biggest victims of these soft on criminal policies, these no cash bails, and constantly allowing murderers, criminals, thieves back on the streets to victimize the very communities that they live in. And so now we have to have this conversation. What is going on with black men in America? What is going on with white liberals who have a suicidal kind of ideation about them when it comes to their culture and who they are, that they're willing to put everybody else at risk, especially other minorities who live amongst these people, the most, while pretending to virtue signal you are somehow morally superior to all of us, and you will show us what morality really means, that we need to be soft on crime, to the point where crime is out of control in the community, and its citizens can't even step outside without the stress of being robbed, murdered, carjacked, you name it. it's convenient for them to try to bury this story, but the story is so big it cannot be buried. It's literally being talked about all over X. You cannot escape it. Reporters have even asked Donald Trump what he thinks about it and that he may have a statement to make, which plays perfectly into his hard on crime. You know, we're going into Chicago. We're going to clean up the streets. We're cleaning up Washington, D.C. And this will be another nail in that coffin where he gets to parade around his policies of being ultra successful and why they are needed because of these soft on crime leftist lunatics that are letting killers roam free in the streets to victimize people, oftentimes unprovoked.
Who are truly, there are evil people. We're all people of religion, but there are evil people, and we have to confront that. I just give my love and hope to the family of the young woman who was stabbed this morning or last night in Charlotte by a madman, a lunatic, just got up and started. It's right on it. Not really watchable because it's so horrible, but just viciously stabbed. She's just sitting there. So they're evil people. We have to be able to handle that. If we don't handle that, we don't have a country.
Now, most people will reduce this down into he was just black. He's a black guy. Black guys are violent. It's a black problem. I'm coming at it more from the angle of we already know what the statistics say. No need to say it out loud. We already know. They're there in the files, official government reports. What I really want to shine a light on is why the entire leftist media machine tries to bury the story. There's not one post. The New York Times, not one post. If you search something like Daniel Perry or George Floyd, all these media outlets have thousands, hundreds, if not thousands. I believe on George Floyd alone, there were 5,800 and something reports, separate articles written about George Floyd. But you have such an egregious situation here where this woman was simply sitting down in a seat and got murdered in cold blood. Zero articles written, despite it being one of the biggest trending stories that hits at the heart of America's issue. Soft on crime, not only the DAs, but the judges, cashless bail, people being victimized at will, and playing into the racial issues, the whole black fatigue that has been discussed for the past couple of months now, where everybody, including other black people, are now tired of a certain subsect of black culture that is victimizing everybody around them. It's gotten so incredibly violent and dangerous to the point where you can and at will lose your life for something as simple as sitting down next to somebody. The left will continue to gaslight and say this is a mental issue. It was a one-off problem. No. Don't blame the judges. We have to give everybody a shot. But this isn't the first of such cases. As a matter of fact, it just happened today. A few days ago. Suspect arrested after Auburn University veterinary professor killed while walking her dog. Can you guess who the murderer was? His name is Harold Rashad Dabney III. He's charged with 2 counts of capital murder in the September 6, 2025, sharp force trauma death of a university professor, Dr. Julie Gard Schnuel. Yes, Harold Rashad Dabney III of his lineage. Great. When you dig into more of this, you understand that there were other stories just like this that the leftist media, mainstream news, has buried because the optics of race looks so terrible for them. We have a Brianna Kupfer, who was murdered by another black man, and it was a UCLA grad student, and she was stabbed to death in the same manner, unprovoked. Whether you want to say that, is there a component of racial hatred in this? Could this be classified as a hate crime? Could some of the other crimes that have been committed be classified as hate crimes? That poor kid that got stabbed to death simply for saying you were in my seat. That's another one. All the other ones that have happened that have been getting suppressed as well, because optics for the left is all that matters. And these don't make good stories because it goes against the narrative. How many more of these? White America is now asking itself, do we have to live like this? How many more people get victimized for doing nothing at all? And we have to keep our heads down, white America is asking. While this kind of senseless violence, these dogs, criminals, thugs are walking the streets, victimizing people left and right, knowing that they'll get away with it, and have said as much because some of these bozos only got kept in jail. And believe me when I say this, because this is what this one guy says. The judge said the defendant knew what was right and wrong here. She cited jailhouse calls, including one in which Smith, this was the murderer of the woman from UCLA, the grad student, he said this, and quote, all I got to do is play crazy, and they'll drop and dismiss the case that way. You are mistaken by thinking these people are stupid. You're mistaken by thinking they don't know what they're doing, that this is all impulsive or only impulsive. You are mistaken by thinking that not seeing race will not make you a victim. You are mistaken in a bunch of ways that could cost you your entire life by thinking that there isn't a subset of people that absolutely hate you, as they were trained by leftist media to play them up as victims in their own mind, that they're being held down and that white people are to blame for everything. You are absolutely mistaken to think that has absolutely no bearing on the behavior of some of these people, and it didn't lead directly to this act or others like it. You are sorely mistaken. And you cannot know by walking down the street, and you could be walking across from a black guy, and you don't know, it's the truth, whether they bought into the victim-blaming narrative of leftist media, and that you may be the next one to get victimized as a form of a payback. You just don't know. This is the fatigue that is setting in with everybody, not just whites, but everybody is being tired. There is a portion of the black community that has begun calling this stuff out. Good for them, and they should, and they keep highlighting this. They absolutely need to, because by the virtue of being black, you will be, by all outside groups, lumped in with all these people, because the others cannot tell if you're one of these YNs or whatever they want to call them, the thug life, the hood culture mentality, the ghetto, the hood culture. From the outside looking in, it's hard to tell the difference. Amongst the black community, it's really easy for them to tell the difference between one of those and an upstanding citizen. However, the fatigue is set in. People are tired of being victimized or seeing explosions in videos like this. They cannot suppress this kind of information anymore. And when the statistics bear out a 41.5 times, if not more, rate of being victimized by a black person, if you're white, leads this new conversation into an area of exactly what we're seeing. Do we have to live like this? Why don't we criminalize people? Where's the death penalty? We want our own communities. We shouldn't be forced to live around these people. You're seeing all of these as comments. And it will devolve further into, this is just how they are. They can't help themselves. It's all genetic, yada, yada. And further down, it goes on the list where it can lead to some very trouble outcomes, which is what we want to avoid. I think, from my perspective, it's this simple. I don't like the double standards against whites with the Western, or I should say the leftist, media outlets. Why are stories like this being suppressed just because it's uncomfortable that black people are committing disproportionate amounts of violent crimes? Call it out then. Let's have a conversation. Let's hold each other accountable. And the fact that the victim is white, so the oppressed narrative isn't holding up. And the victim points, the race baiting, race blaming, and all the other dog whistles that they feed to their constituents doesn't hold any water in the real world, as whites are being victimized at disproportionate rates, and everybody else in general, around a certain subset of people. If we continue to try to bury this, make this a double standard, pretend it's not an issue, it will absolutely boil over and explode. Now, are we going to see George Floyd level protests from this event? I don't think so. Are we getting there? Is America going to get tired to the point where cities will burn? You will see pictures of police cars flipped upside down, businesses broken into, windows cracked all over the place, busted up, things lit on fire. Are you going to see that from white America? Is there a point where they are done with this level of violence and nothing being done about it, from the DA to the judges and to the police? Remains to be seen. Had this been the other way around and a deranged white male, just came in there stabbing a black woman that just got off of her job at a pizzeria, the story would have been obvious. Black woman, strong, brave, just trying to make it out here in these hard streets from a nice, humble pizzeria job. She just finished an 8-hour shift making pennies on the dollar, minimum wage, and tired and just trying to go home and climb up the social ladder because she's being held down by institutional racism, and some deranged white man came and stabbed her in the neck and walked off the train like nothing ever happened. What kind of animal? Nazi. This is a hate crime. Charge him, arrest him right away. Netflix would be lining up to make a movie or a docuseries about all this stuff. That's what is called the double standard. And that is what people are getting really tired of. They're also getting tired of the other aspect, which is the race question. It's starting to pop up a lot more often, but surely not being helped by the media. So unless we discuss this constantly, openly, have a real discussion, truthful, honest, that we have a problem in the black community with black men, extreme amounts of violence. The crime statistics tell you the entire story. A small portion of the population commits a disproportionate amount, incredibly disproportionate amount of violence and crime. We have an issue with black culture that needs to be addressed. That makes it, you don't even have to say makes it okay, but at least doesn't even call out this kind of behavior en masse. If anything, this kind of ignorance is celebrated in certain aspects of the culture. Listen to your rap music. Watch some of your black media. You will see what they highlight and what they celebrate and what they elevate within the community. The degeneracy, the cultural rot, and that is spilling out into the streets and everyday life. So when you're, again, like I said earlier, can you imagine yourself living in the hood, in the ghetto, being surrounded by absolute animal savages that would take your heart out of your chest for a penny if they felt like it? And you must navigate those streets and put yourself through school in a community that tells you your own peers make fun of you for trying to be educated, trying to speak proper. You're in an underfunded area, and even if it's funded, it doesn't matter. The violence doesn't change. But you're in a shitty area where the only option you have is somehow to get out. And all those around you, crabs in a very violent bucket, pulling you down to the point where it almost becomes impressive that you live to be 25 years old as a black man, because other black men will victimize you. And the rate is so high that in the worst of the worst ghettos or hoods or whatever, living to 25 years old in that community, you are called an OG, an old head, essentially an original gangster. That's a name that would be reserved for like 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds. You give that to a 25-year-old, as in you have experience in the game. You've seen it all, because your chance of survival in the streets are next to nil. You are either in jail or dead. That's the culture that we have to discuss. That's the stuff that they're pushing to the youth. And that is what the youth are now taking as behavioral cues to go out and do the same in the streets. Robbing, killing, selling drugs, taking drugs, sex with women, all sorts of stuff, murder for nothing. Just listen to any rap song you want. The kids are acting it out in the streets. They're being raised to have rap sheets as long as CVS tickets. It never ends. The cycle continues. And now you have them going in and out of jail without being kept there in cashless bail, which leads to things like this happening. And everyone else is supposed to be quiet about this because we got to let people police their own. You, as a white man, cannot speak on such things. You wouldn't know what it's like. Yet the left believes that it's okay for them, in a hypocritical sense, to speak about the white community and what's going on in the white community. We have eyes. We have ears. We can see what's happening in each other's communities. You go into a Hispanic neighborhood, a black neighborhood, Asian neighborhood, white neighborhood. You can go and you can look and you can see how the people are, how they behave, how they treat the place that they live in, the violence, the crime, all the statistics, the employment, the income earned per family. You can look at all that and make inferences about things. You can discuss it. Hey, this community is not looking too healthy. Something's wrong here. Are we celebrating and pushing the wrong things in our culture? Do we value education? Do we value fathers in the home? Do we value being upstanding citizens? Do we value giving back to our community? Do we value being better, not for yourself, but your family? What values are propagating throughout the culture? Well, look at the movies, listen to the music, hear the words of their rappers, and you'll get an idea of what's hip, what's cool, and what leads to exactly what you're seeing here. Anyways, there's so much more to get into this on the, cultural and racial side, and we'll speak about it inevitably as more cases like this prop up. There's a heightened sense of scrutiny and vigilance for things like this happening. Rest assured, this conversation will come up again very shortly. After this, another one happened. Like I said, the Auburn University veterinary professor murdered for walking her dog. A whole countless bunch of stories before have already been hidden and suppressed that will now be inevitably dug up and will become part of this discussion in what you could call it, race relations in the United States currently. If we can't talk about it, we can't fix the problem. And the first problem is identifying the problem. We know what the problem is. Let's talk about what we can do about it. And let's not pretend it doesn't exist, because that's where we head down the path of full-blown segregation, full-blown, way worse stuff happening in the streets at scale, which can all be avoided. We don't have to go there, but we also don't have to live like this. So I welcome discussion on this one, guys. I know it's an extremely sensitive topic for many people, and there will be a proportion of the Black viewers on my channel that will not like that I'm covering this. And the lens that I'm covering it in, they'll instinctually want to protect their own and defend. But I ask you to take a neutral look on all this, almost a third-person perspective, because that's what it's going to take to have a genuine conversation about what's going on. If we're going to pretend somebody is a victim or somebody is benefiting in some way, let's at least do it from a neutral lens so that we can objectively see what's actually happening. Because once you inject emotion into this conversation, it will devolve into exactly the worst kind of conversation you can imagine. I am sure there will be some people in the comment section with some very low IQ takes about it's all of them and, whatever else to be ignored. But a conversation that must be had nonetheless. Anyways, we'll see you on the next one. We'll be keeping, updates on this as it continues to track in the news cycle and all the other stuff that continues to happen that may be related to Black on white violence, and in the reverse too, if we have a national news story like that and how it gets covered. Take care, everybody. See you on the next one.